The Natchez Trace Parkway is not just a place where one gets stuck behind slow traffic. It's a historic natural travel corridor that has been used for thousands of years. Commissioned as a national park in 1938, the trace was traveled and occupied by thriving tribal nations for 10,000 years. Many tribal nations even helped build the road and establish thriving economies along the trace. But the relationship between indigenous people and the Natchez Trace is not just ancient history. Tribal nations still play a critical role in protecting the lands and cultural sites along the trace. The Parkway's tribal liaison and cultural anthropologist Cheyenne Bennett hosts a presentation about some of the 25 tribal nations associated with the Parkway's lands.
One of the things I hear often is that they feel invisible, that people don't know that they exist. So the fact that the Parkway that they even hired me and that they have a platform for me to stand here and talk about them is amazing.
The Natchez Trace is a unique national park, says Amber DeBartoleben, the lead interpretation ranger at the Natchez Trace Parkway Visitor Center.
But the cool thing about the Natchez Trace is that a lot of people have, daily contact with the trace, and so they grow up with it being part of their lives. And that's really unique to this park because it stretches across so much of Mississippi.
Bennett describes why she's so passionate about sharing the stories of Native Americans.
One of the very first meetings I went to involved sitting and listening to some tribal nations crying and talking about their experiences where their ancestors may have been removed in the past. And seeing how that impacted them made me really want to do my job and to really help work with them and to make sure their voices are heard.
The first people to use the trails that became the old Natchez Trace were actually the indigenous people of Mississippi. It surprised quite a few people, so we wanted to get that word out there.
Being able to come up here, learn about other indigenous tribes, helps me to be more aware of the past.
An attendee, Kevin Steele, says that he is going to be more aware of history after the presentation.
What she said about the Trail of Tears and how many Americans tend to just lump all of the removals together as one big event. I'm going to try to be more aware of that and how each one has their own individual tragic history. It's not just one conglomerated history that can be interchangeably used for all of them.
Bennett shares what she hopes people take away from the presentation.
Native people are still alive, that they are not extinct, that hopefully that Americans can move away from stereotypes about Native peoples and just know that they're here and they're not going anywhere.
Telling your story at the Natchez Trace Parkway, Caleb Green, WCBI News.